Okay, because I wanted to ask you, yeah, like what's your private life? What's your that we don't see? Sorry, Blaxtar that we don't see.
She did. Can we cut that, please?
Hello and welcome to Word Up Podcast. I'm Evie,
And I'm Webster.
and today we are in Rotterdam with Blaxtar.
Good day, sir. Good day, madam.
How's it going?
Pretty well. Yeah, thank you.
Hello, and we're very excited to be in Rotterdam.
Yeah.
All
it's
the
a,
way.
It's a good place to be.
Yeah.
It's super cold.
Not usually.
No? It's my, yeah.
Yeah, it just happens to be the other day. No, but what I mean, to me, I mean, I've only lived there for, I'm going to say 5 years now. Used to live in Amsterdam for 10 and then a little further up north and in the country. And I've really come to appreciate Rotterdam. There's something of a, I don't know, like a creative energy that I haven't found anywhere else,
Right.
personally.
So speaking of creative,
Yes.
how would you introduce yourself?
I would introduce myself as a rapper going rogue. So, no, I have a background in music. And basically my thing is that every time I figured out how to do something for myself, I've tried to unlock that for like-minded people. So when I figured out how to release my own album, I turned around and helped like 4 or 5 other acts, hip-hop acts, to do the same thing. So that became a label.
Right.
When I figured out how to interest audiences, let's say non-hip-hop audience, for the lyricism in hip-hop, I turned around and unlocked that for like-minded artists, and that became Spoken, which is a spoken word platform.
Right.
When I figured out what the differences are between setting up a creative business, like setting up a business from the perspective of an artist or a creator, versus a more traditional approach to business, I turned around and tried to unlock that, and that became Brainworks Academy, which is like a business school for artists or for creators.
Right.
So that's kind of my thing. I just keep unlocking things that I myself have struggled with.
Yeah. But then you've been in the business for a while now.
Hmm.
You started as a rapper, right?
Yeah, you could say that.
You could say. Do you say?
How do you say that?
To me, like hip hop unlocked me, I'd say.
All right.
I grew up in the countryside. We were like the only black family in a 50-kilometer radius. So hip hop found me in the middle of those pastures, and from there, I just like I said, it just kind of unlocked this curiosity,
Right.
but also something of like an entrepreneurial spirit. I really wanted to figure out, like I said, I wanted to release my own album. I read one book, which was the book was titled "All You Need to Know About Music Business."
Right.
So I figured once I read that, I knew everything there was to know about music
course.
business, because that's what the title said. So then I just launched my own album and released the album. Launched my own label and released the album. So yeah, and then from there, everything kind of grew organically into what it is now.
Okay.
Would you say you had a natural knack for teaching people, which is what you've been doing, or more for the business side of things? And how did they sort of come together?
Yeah. Excellent question. Now, I'd say that to me, and I mean, from my perspective, all business hinges on the difference in knowledge, the difference in knowledge between two parties. If I know more about something than you do, then I can provide you with the value that either shortens your research time or makes it easier for you to access something. So therewith, we create the situation which I think it's necessary for value to exchange, and from value exchange you get business. So to me, business and teaching are very much in sync. However, we have kind of constructed this whole paradigm around teaching being something that's necessary but not very economically valuable. Whereas it literally shapes lives versus anything we do that has a direct application to make money with, and that we value usually value more. So to me, the juxtaposition of teaching versus business is not necessarily one that really exists. I really see it as one thing that we do, which is a prerequisite for a business to even exist. So exchanging knowledge is the prerequisite for business to exist. And I think in our family, and even like our ancestral history, it turns out that we've had a lot of teachers in our family. And my brother did this whole journey and researched our family tree. And it turns out that there are some relevant teachers there. I mean, relevant from Serenity's perspective. And so there's like this lineage that kind of go through the entire family. So I think it's always been a part of us. And traditionally speaking, I mean, let's say, going back all the way to Africa, I think the oral tradition of transferring knowledge has always been there.
Yeah.
I mean, music and knowledge in that perspective are very linked as well. So I think, to me, they kind of feel the same. They're just different applications of the same principle.
And I'm just curious, because you were talking about moving from hip-hop to spoken to teaching now, essentially. Is that where you're going to stay? Is this a niche that you're passionate about enough to stay, or are you looking into something else?
No, it's definitely, let's say the reason I started is because I didn't find any institution that could help me when I was really looking for the information, like actively looking for information.
Right.
I didn't find it, and I have this, my creed is every problem is a business, and if you can't find a business, it's probably yours. So that's, I kind of just took it upon myself to try and create something that could actually facilitate creators in terms of where they get their business information from and whatnot. So to me, that's something that I built. But then at some point, as with any creation, you kind of let go of what it is that you think you created, and then let it kind of become whatever people need it to be. So I'm very much an instigator. Like I can get shit started. Excuse my French. And then from there on out, it's, people will come and use it for whatever they feel delivers the most value to them. And that's when you have to let go in order for it to, I think, reach maximum potential.
Right.
So yes, it's something that I have done, but it's not something that I'll be busy with for the remainder of my life.
So that's still a mystery.
No, because other people will come in and, I don't know how to manage a company. I know how to start something and explore what the values are that could be the prerequisite, as we just said, for the business. But I don't see myself as somebody who's manages several companies. I just happen to have some good ideas and attract the right people, and they then grow into whatever they grow into.
Okay.
And I'll just do my own creative thing and probably run into other problems that I could then hopefully help solve.
Right. So you are really good with people and people skills and
I
recognizing the talent, right?
I think that you'd get different answers depending on who you ask. No, I do recognize potential in people, but there's a pitfall to that. Obviously, as they say, don't fall in love with potential.
Ooh.
So but I do recognize potential. I see potential solutions. And the thing is, there's a beautiful line from, if you're talking about spoken word, Black Ice, Lamar Manson, who said in one poem, "Earth is not my favorite place. I don't visit often," or something like that, which is very much applicable to me because I envision a future, and I spend more time there than necessarily here today, which again can also be a pitfall, but it helps to navigate the distance between now and then.
Right.
If you catch my drift.
Yeah.
So that helps me to help people. And some of the people that I coach or like I'm a mentor to would say that I always know what they'll do before they know it. Because I kind of see like there's a logic to situations that they find themselves in, and like there's a pattern. And so, you just extrapolate that, and then you kind of feel like, well, you're now doing this, but it looks like we're heading this way.
Yeah.
And that's what I like to do. I really like to,
nice.
Coach, help.
So you're spending so much time in the future. What scares you about the future?
Funny you should ask. I think I only had, past tense, one fear about the future, and that is to be successful and lonely.
Okay.
That's interesting.
It is, isn't it? Yeah, because I think much of a man's life, and yes, I just threw in gender there, but it's probably applicable to a lot of female and anybody who doesn't identify as either one.
Cover all the bases.
I think it has a lot to do with purpose, figuring out what your purpose is. Like, how do you deliver as much value as you can to your surroundings? And then if you're blessed enough to get to a point where you can actually reach a lot of people and make a significant impact, then chances are that will absorb your life, as I've seen happen with many people that I know, up close and personal. So then to find a significant other or love or just a group of people that you really feel is your family, like in the truest sense of the word, I think could be quite a challenge.
Right.
So I think my fear for my future used to be, I like to think that I've overcome that fear, used to be successful and lonely. Not even but lonely, it's like and lonely.
Oh.
So how do you, sorry.
No, you go.
How do you balance the two then? Finding passion in what you do and trying to build amazing things, and at the same time trying to, not be lonely.
Balance is typically one of the bigger challenges. I think that's really something that you have to learn. There's only one way to learn, is just to go through it and embrace that which you fear the most. So if you embrace your loneliness, then you'll find a place where you feel at ease. And then once you feel at ease, lo and behold, there are people around you that kind of fill the space, so you don't feel the loneliness, but you are alone. And then it will attract the right people, which kind of like doubles up on you don't basically not feeling lonely, like being far removed from feeling lonely, because you have this connectivity with people that you just know you're on the same frequency, you understand life similarly, maybe not the same, but similarly, and you're able to grow together. And so I'm not sure there's a how to that. To me, at least, in my experience, it was really a process.
Right.
But I'm happy to say that I'm very much at peace with that part of my life, like
nice.
Finding that balance.
And the anxieties that come with sort of building and potentially doing something that's never been done before, which I'm sure you've done when you're up and coming in your career.
Mm-hmm.
You have all these amazing dreams. How did you manage that? How did you navigate the uncertainty of not knowing whether you were gonna become, hip hop artist or whatever?
To me, it was, let's say, I'd lie if I were to say that, yeah, I had this plan, then I did this, and then I had these and these steps that I had designed to get there. Like, nah, none of that happened. I just really decided to do one thing and then just basically started doing it.
Right.
And I think, I did, to me, it was, in my case, it was kind of I'd say too extreme for most people, because I really just decided to go head first and ignore everything else. So I learned exponentially fast, because obviously you're going to make mistakes, and those mistakes that's the value of doing it.
Yeah.
And then, you've basically, for your next step, okay, next time I'm not going to do this again.
Yeah.
But it also enabled me to help other people to navigate their, what we call creative revolution, right? The emancipation of your creative self. So it's just doing it. And I think that has worked very well for me. Not because it was easy, or not because, I became an overnight success or whatever people deem to be the definition of success. But I've learned so much, and I'm so confident in the process, the creative process, and the, let's say, real world commercial process of it, that I literally don't have a fear in the world at this point. And I think for many people that start out doing whatever is new, so the first step out of the comfort zone, is usually a huge thing, especially if you have like kids and if you mortgage, and there's so many things that you want to be secure about, and then stepping outside of your comfort zone usually involves insecurity also in that respect, financial respect. So for me, it was really just to start doing it and then kind of figure out along the way where it would get me. But I had this, my blessing was that I've never not known what the next step was. So I've never, even like in the harshest of circumstances, I've always known that this is a circumstance. So whatever comes next will come next.
That really is a blessing.
That definitely, because like I could have just tried up and be this sad, dark character, laying in the corner in fetal position, waiting what life was going to unleash on me next. But that didn't happen, because I think also in a way protected, in a sense, because I have done things that in retrospect seem so far from logical that the only way to explain it is by some kind of divine intervention.
Okay.
Like I'm a high school dropout with its own school.
That's pretty cool.
It's just weird. It's basically like a punchline.
Yeah.
And is that an advice that you would give your younger self, or like to just roll with the punches?
I'd say that, yeah, with a little bit more, I'd say a little bit more hedging, because I really went all out. So there was no safety nowhere. And if I would go back in time and take those steps again, or advise my younger self, then I'd say do it, but make sure there's something in there that has that can basically, it's kind of like a safety net.
Right.
Right, and it doesn't necessarily mean money. It could also be means, network, or whatever, but something there that keeps you from making it too hard on yourself.
Right.
Because there are definitely times that I thought, okay, this is pretty impossible. and it just takes so much energy and strength. Physical, mental, energetic, to pick yourself up by the bootstraps and continue. Whereas it doesn't have to be that hard.
Right.
It could be easier if we knew a little bit more modesty, I'd say.
And how much do you think of where you are right now is luck, and how much is persistence?
To me, it doesn't feel as though those are mutual exclusive concepts. I think persistence comes with a little bit of luck, or luck comes with a little bit of persistence. I have no idea how it really works, but I think that to be fully committed to a certain outcome will at some point in time get you the result that you want. Or maybe not exactly that result, but then at least a measure of that result. So I think persistence is definitely a prerequisite to get lucky.
Right.
But I'm not sure that it's a either or type proposition.
Right.
Personally, do you think that? Do you think it's either luck or persistence?
I don't know. There's this term in Jewish religion where they say it's neither or, but it's where luck meets the serendipity.
Yeah. Yeah, I do believe it's serendipity.
So.
Yeah. Beautiful movie, by the way.
Very sobby.
Very romantic. Y'all should watch it.
So, did I hear that you have something prepared for us for today?
Yeah. It's something that I wrote a long time ago. I'm working on this project called Sapiosexual.
Right.
A sapiosexual is somebody who feels sexually attracted to somebody else's intelligence. And, since we broached the topic of loneliness,
okay.
I figured this kind of deals with that. And, I think it might fit.
Nice. Let's hear it.
Sex in him, she was fully aware, was a slippery slope. The way the word slid off the tongue she just removed her clitoris from. Simple as that damn man was as good as her baby daddy. She knew and felt awkward. Like the silence, only disrespected by his heavy breathing. Why then? As the morning after became more of an afternoon, he had given her his last head and headed out humming Jay-Z's on to the next one. So why is it I'm still the hottest nigga here? Run. She stood idly by, smiling as he escaped her linear gaze, utilizing a corner. Great. Now it's just her and this... The glove's coming off. Lord Jesus, I feel how real this is, and it is what I've been praying for, but please not his.
That was wonderful.
Thank you.
Tell us about your inspiration. How did it come about?
It came about. I'm basically researching the concept of sapiosexualism, and I realized that much of when you're sapiosexual, it's like what heterosexual and homosexual, we tend to focus on sex. Which obviously is a minor part of the whole psychological scheme that we described with, or now that's activated when we enter into courtship, for instance. So I came to this idea of where you this is the first part of like a series of short stories. Where the duality of those interactions, and obviously since I'm heterosexual, that's kind of like my area, so
right.
Other people don't feel discriminated against. So I just started describing this story where you started with something very casual, and then it becomes more and more complex the more you get into the psychology behind the actions. Since I always figure I always envision courtship as like a 7-door system, where you're like, first you'll like become aware of each other, and then you start to focus on each other, and then there's like a communication portal opens up, and then you kind of work your way to stepping away from the crowd, like being finding solitude together, which then leads to like you just like kind of like deviate from group behavior into more one-on-one,
Right.
special care time. And like there's so many beautiful psychological lines in there, which then at some point either at some point they'll clash. That's a given. And then there's a decision on what are we, like the what are we to each other question. And I think it's beautifully complex how that works, and especially if you think about, you never get what you think you get. So I'm seeing smirks here. You never get what you think you get. So there's always this, I don't know, it's like a negotiation almost, but it's very subtle. And so this
non-verbal
scene, yeah, exactly. And this scene kind of describes the first stage of that.
I like it a lot. It's very vivid. I was following the story and I was like, Pastor, you just left. Yeah. The whole story.
Yeah, he's kind of a macho guy.
Yeah. No, that's wonderful. I don't think I've ever heard anyone speak through this art form about the psychology of attraction and building relationships and stuff. So that was interesting for me to begin with. Yeah.
Thank you. I think it's wonderfully complex. I mean, obviously, like the love is possibly the most common topic in music. But then I feel now we've entered into this realm where storytelling is basically the new gold, right? Because if you think about it, the gaming industry is, I think, maybe even bigger than the movie industry, and both are derived from storytelling. Then if you look at what social media is basically like a diary. It's a public diary.
Right.
So the storytelling. So we're so engulfed in storytelling, then there's so much space to really lay much more, I think, to uncover much more of the complexities of interhuman relationships, and especially the romantic variety of it. That you just kind of, it begs for, I think, well, maybe not begs for, but I think there's opening there to take all that material and put it into something that is musical. So not really a video or like a TV show or a movie, but something that's really derived from stories, but in a musical landscape.
Right.
And kind of like opera. I guess used to be. I don't know about modern opera, but I know, like, the what I know about opera, and I'm obviously not an expert, but it really tells this whole drama from beginning to an end. So I'd like to kind of do that without being, cheesy. It doesn't have to be any in the closet type R. Kelly thing, but I think Kendrick Lamar did something that was just amazing with How to Pimp a Butterfly. Not How to Pimp a Butterfly. It was there's so much in there that just to read it, because you can listen to it and it has all these elements, but if you read it, you really dive into just the lyricism of it. I think it's just amazing. So that really inspires me.
So it sounds like complexity really inspires you, and the issues that correlate.
I think in storytelling, I say, because if I think about which, let's say, Netflix shows are really cool. To me, it's like, is it How to Get Away with Murder?
Yeah, that's one.
Is that the name?
That's the name, yeah.
How do you not
I don't know. I don't have Netflix.
Yeah, you don't have. It's like saying I don't have Google.
All you have
I'm
to
from
know.
Soviet Union.
About How to Get Away with Murder. There's another TV show that's with Glenn Close, not on Netflix actually, but it's Damages. And I mean, just how the storylines are just interwoven is just sexy. You know, just to see that and to kind of like figure out and learn about the characters and how they develop, and you know how they didn't try to screw each other over. It's just beautiful. So yeah,
Sounds like soap.
it is. But
And I'm still not over being bullied for not having Netflix.
You just have to know someone who has Netflix.
Yeah,
and then you're
exactly.
okay.
yeah,
But,
but just give me your phone in a minute. I'll make sure you leave here with Netflix.
So is this what you do in your spare time?
Yeah, let's call it spare time.
Is this how we imagine you on a couch with fuzzy socks?
Definitely.
Yeah.
And I shave my legs.
Okay.
Eat ice cream.
You know. Yeah.
All that stuff.
B&J.
Okay, because I wanted to ask you, yeah, like what's your private life? What's your Kevin that we don't see? Sorry, Blaxtar that we don't see.
Just
She
cut
did.
that.
Can we cut that, please? Yeah. You know, I don't really have a private life.
well,
No.
well.
What I mean is this. I started out basically doing what I love. Because, you know, started with music and spoken word and whatever. So that's the basis of all my businesses and activities, etc. So my private and business life are very intertwined. Like I only work with people that I really like. So I don't have this work experience
Right.
and this private experience. Just people that are around me that are like-minded. That I just, you know, if it works out, that you kind of, you know, get on this project together, or you kind of seek out the people that you really want to work with, rather than just 100% business relationship. I seldom, or it rarely happens that I work with somebody purely based on business.
Right.
There's usually a reason that they're even in my hemisphere,
Yeah.
right? Because I don't just go around and like, you know, look for a job or something like that.
Yeah.
Like the last job I had was for Elsevier, I guess. And so that was the last environment that I was in that had people in it that I wouldn't choose
Okay. Yeah.
to be around. And from there on out, it's just basically people like you know, like this. These are people that I choose to be around.
What's
Nice.
that saying? If you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess you built your life around that.
True. I've always been, and ever since, especially since the last job, I remember the moment that I decided, no, I can't do this anymore. It's when I went to work, came up in the elevator, and then I tried to open the door to my office, and it was incredibly difficult to open all of a sudden. Like, it took a lot of strength to open that door, and it was a very easy door handle. So at that moment, I figured, like, you know, I don't have the willpower to open this door,
Right.
or it takes too much willpower to open this door because I know what's behind it. So I was like, this is it. So that very morning, I wrote a letter to my directors, like, so about working here, I think I need to go. And then he offered me to stay and like do a little less work or something like that. And I took that because I didn't want to disappoint them. But then that was already too much.
All right.
I shouldn't have done that. But that was the last environment I experienced where I was not necessarily surrounded with people that I really want to be around.
But then, speaking of people, what are the characteristics you value the most in people?
I think the characteristic I value the most is the ability to think beyond your circumstances. I think that would have to be it. Anybody who finds himself caught by their circumstances, the way I see it, has not yet developed into a person who can basically, take that bird's eye view,
Yeah.
look around, and then decide on what the following action should be. This is not a character trait, or not necessarily a character trait, because there's scientific evidence that suggests that let's say financial stress literally takes away from your intelligence, right? So there are environmental characteristics that may decrease your ability to do so, but a lot of it comes from perseverance, faith, I guess, creativity, basically, yeah, basically, and being in touch with that,
Right.
because I think we all have it, we just don't all use it.
Yeah, for sure. I just heard today that this is one of the questions at JetBlue Airlines.
Okay.
For anybody who they hire, this is one of the questions they get.
Which is what?
How often do you go out of your immediate
Comfort zone.
yeah, and then how often you actually help out, which is not your responsibility directly.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So I find it's really
I
useful in
understand
life in general.
Yeah, I completely understand that. Yeah, I think that to me that's it separates. There's a beautiful analogy that T.D. Jakes used, one of my favorite speakers of all times. It's about an eagle, and he was explaining how eagles mate. Now, for those of you who are not up to this latest fact,
Bring it on.
eagles basically they fly as high as they can go. Obviously, there's a male and a female eagle. Then they get entangled, and then they just drop. So it's a free fall, and during the free fall they mate, and then before they hit the ground they detach, and then they go their separate ways. So he was describing that, and he said, "There's a reason that eagles don't mate with chickens." I was like, "Yeah,
This is true.
Probably more than one, but yes, this one.
Yeah. On that altitude, you will not find any chicken."
No, you will not.
And so I think that's kind of this the undercurrent of life is you have to find your fellow eagles, and then let's say energetically mate with them. You don't have to take that literally, and then beautiful things will happen. And if you keep finding yourself in the company of chickens as an eagle, then obviously it's time to fly, time to seek the altitude. Yeah, basically seek that altitude that's rightfully yours.
Wow, that's intense.
Beautiful, yeah, I like that. I think that's a good spot to end.
There you go. There you go. It's always good to end on TD Jakes.
Nice lessons from Blaxtar about eagle mating.
Yeah.
So, for our audience listening, can you tell them where they can find your work, what you do, maybe your website, social media, and all that sort of stuff?
I am at Blaxtar on Instagram and Facebook. I'm not sure that the kids still go to Facebook, but I'm just throwing it in there.
What's that?
And on LinkedIn, also, actually, you can find me on LinkedIn on that same name. And Blaxtar is Blaxtar. And then my website, or the company website, brainworks.com. And that's obviously we need to throw in something special with the spelling there as well. So it's BRAEN works.com. And that's the business school for creatives. And on YouTube, there.
You're everywhere.
I'm almost everywhere. I'm like an internet whore.
We're gonna quote this.
Yeah, that needs a quotable on Instagram.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for giving us your wisdom.
Thank
and
you for having me.
knowledge.
Thank you very much for speaking with us.
Yeah, looking forward to the podcast. And much luck and best of success to you, creative lot. You know, flying around the world and visiting your wisdom upon those who are willing to hear.
Thanks
Thank
a
you.
lot.
Cheers. So as usual, for our wonderful listeners, you know where to find us. It's www.worduppodcast.com, where you'll be able to make guest suggestions, find our social media, and find any up-to-date information about our past and present guests. Thank you.
Doei!
Bye. Hello,
You
hello.
didn't test me?
You are tested.
You're so tested.
Whenever you're ready.
I'm never ready.
It's going to take a while.